this is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4?
Celtics.
Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, DRG. Let's go. What do you think for tonight? You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about them. Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not. No,
recently he's putting up games like
above our head for the players.
literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do. And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Show. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, and tonight alongside of me, Justin Lowe,
Franco.
Nick Franco. Are we doing it correctly here? Are we doing it correctly?
Yes, you got it.
I don't know. I can't trust you guys anyway. I got pranked last postgame.
That guy. No,
You guys know their face anyway. Justin Lowe and Nick Franco alongside of me tonight as the Boston Celtics pull out a 122-107 win over the Dallas Mavericks in a 2024 NBA Finals rematch. The Boston Celtics didn't start this game out strong, but really as the game went along, really came out strong late in the game and just ran away with it down the stretch. Mavericks tried to mount a little bit of a comeback, but it really didn't amount too much. But the Boston Celtics, guys, this is getting a little annoying at this point in time. It's like good game, bad game, good game, bad game, good game, bad game. But today we get to talk about a good game. So let's get on with our initial thoughts. Franco, we'll start with you.
First off, I'm going to start off this post-game show by banning 2 words, stepping stone and turning point. We are going to wait until 2 to 3 wins in a row. We start to sense that little bit of
That was 3
consistency.
words, dingo.
I said
That's 3 words.
Steve Nash and Chris Paul, must-see TV.
That was 3 words, you freaking idiot.
Again, I just got back this week. Come on, man. Well, once again, we're gonna avoid using that vocabulary today, but it was a fantastic win from the Celtics tonight. They were able to bounce back from a slower start to the first quarter. It looked a little bit lackadaisical, but they were able to get their feet under them. They were able to get the shots rolling. You saw the starting 5 contributing in multiple different facets of today's game. You saw a lot of players that we've been seeing almost regress in their performances recently. Derek White and Drew Holiday really step up
Jason
tonight.
Tatum.
No, he hasn't.
Maybe a little bit from 3.
He's been consistent for us, but Drew Holiday, Derek White really were able to step up their games tonight. The Mavericks were pretty short-handed, and the Celtics were able to get their looks. And when the Celtics are able to shoot over 100 shots, it's bound that they're going to find that momentum at some point in the game. Luckily, it happened in the meat of today's game. It got a little comfortable during the fourth quarter, for the first half of the fourth quarter, and you saw them starting to let up on the gas a little bit. And I think that we're going to see them start to develop that a little bit more. And just a good win to close out the road trip.
Yeah, well, you took away stepping stones. I'm going to use building blocks because that's what this was.
I forgot.
Huh? You messed it up, Franco. You've been gone too long, my friend.
I don't even know if we use stepping stones. Is that even
No,
stepping?
he hasn't. No,
Stones?
we've
It's
never
definitely
used
building blocks.
we've never used it, but that's again 2 words within itself right there. So we've never used it, and it's 2 words. So, but all jokes aside, this was a really good win for this Celtics team. I mean, this is the Celtics coming off of arguably their worst loss of the season against the Los Angeles Clippers on the road on national TV during Rivals Week. Yes, second night of a back-to-back, but 3 fifth-year starting lineup were well rested, not playing on the first night. There really was no excuses for that type of loss against the Los Angeles Clippers on Thursday night. So really good job for the Celtics coming into this one and taking care of business in this 2024 finals rematch. Again, we saw a lot of guys step up tonight. It wasn't just in the scoring side of the stat sheet. 18 combined rebounds off the bench for Peyton Pritchard and Luke Cornett. I'm going to give out my flowers later. It's not to Luke Cornett and Peyton Pritchard, but I'll give a flower to each of those guys for hitting the glass, because that's what the Celtics, one of their weaknesses, hitting the boards. Celtics struggling in that department when they're able to get rebounds. That's crazy. That's insane. I got what I get the other night. PJ
Ashy
Carlissimo.
vocal cords. Get some lotion on the vocal cords.
I
You got PJ Carlissimo and Stan Van Gundy the other night. Now you're getting Doc Rivers. It's going to a whole new level.
It is. I'm gonna have to
Next
see
is
my
RFK Jr.
throat doctor. But I mean, this was a really good win for the Celtics. A really, really good win. And 3-1 on the road trip. 6-2 combined with the West Coast trip from 2 weeks ago. So you coming out of the wild, wild West with 6 wins out of 8. That's really solid.
Yeah, and really looking at this stretch here for the Boston Celtics, it's a little perplexing what we're going through at this moment in time, because really in the month of January, we have not lost back-to-back games, and that was on the line today against the Dallas Mavericks. The last game, of course, was just a terrible game by the Boston Celtics, a terrible performance against the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Celtics team is really not out of their streak of inconsistency whatsoever at this point in time, because what we're seeing is just the team going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What there is optimism over, however, is the fact the Celtics did just go 3-1 on the West Coast road trip, and there are a slew of good wins within the Celtics schedule at this moment in time. And even though they're coming back and forth, you think about the Magic win, the Warriors win tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. These are all blowout type of wins for the Boston Celtics, and really on par with what we saw last season out of the team. And we want to stack more of these wins in order to, I know Franco banned these words tonight, but to really turn the corner. Didn't use turning point. Turn the corner. The Celtics want to turn the corner, of course, on this season, because the inconsistency as of late has been just really confusing. We talked about hitting the confused button the other night, and even in this game, it was a little bit confusing. We look at the lead tracker tonight, it really indicates that confusing turnaround for the Boston Celtics. In the first quarter, it did not look like this game was going to go the Celtics' way whatsoever. You see that dip in the lead tracker right there. That's when the Celtics were just lackadaisical on the defensive end of the floor. It's when the offense was stagnant. The offense had no movement whatsoever. Guys were just going around. The Mavericks were going around the Celtics on the defensive end of the floor. And the Celtics, they didn't look like they were playing I shouldn't even say their game of basketball, because let's face it, we don't really have a specific expectation for the Celtics team anymore in terms of this year. Everything is based off of last year. But from what we saw last year, it wasn't anything like what we saw in the first quarter in this game. Yet that second quarter, specifically going into half, the Celtics, they were playing with more intensity. They were playing with more energy. They were playing with more effort. And that's when you see that spike going into halftime. Now they let their foot off the gas a little bit at the end of the half, but you see that end of the third quarter period, the Celtics ran away with this game. As much of a 25-point lead, the Celtics build as much of a 25-point lead in this matchup. And that's a 35-point turnaround from what we saw in the first quarter. And really what's so interesting about this team is the fact it just seemed like they were able to lock in, and that's what made all the difference. It wasn't some crazy X's and O's solution for the Boston Celtics, as we've talked about in the past on Postgame, specifically on Monday against the Golden State Warriors. it really was the team's effort and intensity out there, and really just their ability to really hit home at all the little things on either end of the floor in order to go out and stretch a lead. So you look at that lead tracker, really indicates the inconsistency for the Boston Celtics, even in this game, but as of late as well. But right now, the Boston Celtics, they come out of here regardless with a great win, and that's what we want to see moving forward.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the independent ball from the Mavericks working in the first quarter. Kyrie Irving was lighting up the Boston Celtics in the first quarter, began able to find his look. They were really able to take advantage of isolation opportunities. I think that the Celtics are going to find a way to close that out, and they were able to during the rest of today's game. They did a good job of really getting their shot flow and being able to find every single player in open looks. We kind of saw that confidence come back into the Celtics once a few started to fall. We saw Derek White being able to tenaciously attack the rim. We saw people getting into dunking positions down low, being able to find the two mid-range shots, being able to find their open shots. We didn't see as much of the quality looks that we were hoping for, because the score could have been higher than it was today if there were a couple times that the Celtics kind of settled and weren't really trying to force the hot hand, which we saw a few times, obviously when they had 102 shots tonight. They are really starting to look like they're coming around from the inconsistencies from last game, but that's kind of repetitive for what's been going on with the Celtics team. You'll see a game where they're able to get everyone involved, everyone's playing aggressively, and then the they're not able to continue it. And the fact that they were able to continue with the adjustments that they make, you notice that they weren't allowing the Mavericks to get to the free throw line as much during the first half of today's game. Or during the second half of today's game, sorry. They are just it was just a very well-rounded 3 quarters from the Celtics. Not exactly wire to wire, but once the Celtics gained that momentum, there wasn't anything really taken away from them.
Yeah, kind of felt like the finals game, not just because we were playing the Dallas Mavericks, but that's kind of what it felt like. I don't know necessarily what game specifically, but just Dallas got out to this quick start, excuse me, and then when Boston just kind of hit a couple shots, everything opened up for them. So I think, just sticking with it, we saw in the lead tracker, the Mavericks made a little run in that third quarter, and then Boston ended up pushing and pushing and pushing up to their largest lead of, I believe it was 25. That's what the lead tracker said. So credit to Boston for playing their brand of basketball tonight. Seamus, we talked about it on Thursday night. We don't know what we're going to be talking about come Saturday night, because we really don't know what this team is. We're hitting the confused button. We're like one game we look like we're back. We're going back to the finals. Then the next game we look like we're going for Cooper Flag in the lottery. So I just don't understand it. I'd love to see some consistency built, but a 3-1 West Coast trip, you'll take it. I also want to give a quick shout out, Kristaps Porzingis. He's been phenomenal. He has been phenomenal as of late. Took him a little bit to get comfortable with the starters, with his own game, but he really came out in this West Coast trip, and he played really, really well.
What's so interesting about this stretch right now for the Boston Celtics in its entirety is the fact there are multiple players actually playing well for the Celtics. There are. Kristaps has been playing well. Jason Tatum, now his numbers have fallen off a little bit from 3 as of late, but he's really been a consistent force this season. Pritchard, he's not been great the last few games, but he's had a couple games in there where he scored 20 points, and we lost on those occasions. Luke Cornett, when you gave out your flowers, and we inexcusably did not present them against the Hawks in a 2-hour post-game show. We came back with the breakdown, though, and don't forget that one. But even Luke Cornett, he's been playing well as of late, and there are just multiple players And Franco's camera just like fell out of his window for a
It's
second
losing
there.
its stick.
You gotta get a better suction cup on that thing. You
Yeah.
gotta get a
It'll probably be down
I
in
don't
the
know what it's
next 10
called.
minutes.
But regardless, there have been players on the Celtics team playing well, and even all the numbers suggest the Celtics are doing better than they really are right now. And really, it takes an eye watching the game in order to see what's wrong with the Boston Celtics. Because if you just looked at the numbers, you just looked at the player stats, most people would say, "Oh, the Celtics are just fine. Oh, they're doing just fine. Oh, they're going through a rough patch." Up. But in reality, on court, it looks a little odd at this moment in time. And even in this game, I would say it didn't look great all the way through. And I don't want to give this team a pass anymore because I feel like they're Muhammad Ali ducking and diving us right now all of a sudden because one game we're talking about a terrible loss to the Los Angeles Lakers in a rivalry game the other night. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about a great win against the Dallas Mavericks on the road. And this was completely predictable after what happened last week and what happened the entire month of January up to this point. Because I mean, how do we stop this? I mean, we played against the Orlando Magic, blew them out. Just this recent stretch. I mean, if you even go before that, the games before that, you play terribly against the Kings. They don't play well against the Pelicans. They eke out a win there, and then they go and play the Toronto Raptors, get blown out essentially in Toronto by a 9-win Toronto team who turned into a 10-win Toronto team that night. All of a sudden, you come home, you blow out the Orlando Magic, shorthanded, of course. The next night, you fumble the details against the Atlanta Hawks if you're the Boston Celtics. Then all of a sudden, oh, we're going on the road. West Coast should be harder, right, against the Golden State Warriors? No, 40-point win. And then, oh, Leicester Clippers team? Yeah, we're going to take them to overtime, almost lose that game. Even probably should have lost that game without Jaden Springer coming into the lineup and affecting that matchup. And then all of a sudden, they go and get blown out the next night by the Los Angeles Lakers and now follow it up with a great win over the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know when this is going to stop, but this is undoubtedly the definition of insanity. We talked about it against the Atlanta Hawks, Franco, and it's still going on because even though the Celtics won tonight, I don't want to let them off the hook right now. I really don't. I want to see 3 straight wins. We saw 3 straight wins, made this point last post game, twice since the beginning of December. Twice. And this is a team that, hey, last year we were pretty accustomed to seeing them win about 6 in a row. They would go, oh, they might lose a game. Now pop off 6 in a row, 7 in a row, 8 in a row. And now we can't even win 3 in a row.
Right.
That's where right now I just one win for the Celtics team. It's just not doing it for me, even though it was a great win. It's just not doing it for me. And this is what it's hard covering a 500 team where, again, you look at the numbers. Oh, they're 32-14. It's like they're not really 500. But the reality is the team is a 500 team in the last month and a half. And we need to see more of this consistency. And I'm not even, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not exactly confident we're going to keep seeing this type of consistency. Maybe this is the point where we turn the corner where I say, well, I don't know if we're going to see this consistency. Then all of a sudden they just turn it around. But even to start this game, it looked terrible. The first quarter, you look at the lead tracker, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. They came out, and the Celtics offense, for me, specifically looking on that end of the floor, defensively, talked about it a lot lately, but offensively, it seems like they come out there without a plan. Like, oh, the entire offense is stagnant. It's just a lot of dribbling. It's a lot of guys standing around, and that's what it looks like. And then defensively, there's no energy. There's no intensity. Peyton Pritchard stood out defensively because he's just going hard on that end of the floor while everybody else is going through the motions. And Dallas is just consistently taking it into our chest. And that, of course, changed in the second quarter for the Celtics. But when is it going to change for a good stretch of games? And when you say good stretch of games, when is it just going to appear every single night instead of sometimes against the Mavericks, but not against the Lakers and not against the Clippers, but against the Warriors? Sure. Not against the Hawks, but against the Magic. Not against the Raptors. I'm very perplexed. Like you said, Justin, we're hitting the confused button. Maybe I'm still concerned, less concerned after this win, maybe a little bit, but I'm still, my finger's still very much on this button. But in terms of the inconsistency, for you guys, what exactly is the biggest factor in this team turning the corner? Not turning point. We're not turning points here, but turning the corner. What is the biggest factor? Because tonight we even saw the team. There are a lot of problems that still fell in this team's lap that wasn't solved from games prior. Yet they still come out with a pretty substantial win. So in terms of the X factor, what is it for the Celtics in order to actually go and turn the corner?
I feel like the offense is extremely stagnant as of late. I feel like they're not getting into plays early, the action early. I feel like we're not seeing screening, off ball movement. Everybody's kind of standing around on the perimeter. You hear Scal talk about it all the time. Somebody's got to get in that low dunker spot. That's when the Celtics offense is best. Everybody is 5 out, spreading 5 out. At times, 5 out is a luxury. But with this team and the talent that they have, there's no need for that. I just it's so hard to dissect this team on a nightly basis because of how inconsistent they've been. It is so hard to gloat about a blowout win, and then the next 48 hours later, we're sitting down talking about how that blowout win didn't matter because we're going to a 21-point blowout loss. Now we're going to a 15-point blowout win. Where do the problems lie? Where do they lie? And I'm having a hard time. Again, I said this. I believe, what show did I say this in? It could have been the Lakers game. I can't put a finger on it. I don't know where the problems are lying. It's a little bit of everything right now. I will tell you this. I do not like the body language of Jaylen Brown. The body language of Jaylen Brown to me is very peculiar. He is, and I'm not saying he's been playing terrible. I'm not going there. But the body language of Jaylen Brown is eye-opening to me. I'm not saying he doesn't want to be there, so slow down, Felger and Maz. I'm not saying that. But I'm just not seeing the excitement that I'm used to Jaylen Brown, that I'm used to seeing in Jaylen Brown. Whether it's sitting on the bench, whether it's just walking on the court, he's not. It didn't look like he's enjoying it. Maybe it's just. I mean, who would be enjoying 500 basketball right now? If that's it, but I don't get that feeling. And then you have that kind of little bit of a cryptic quote where he wasn't wrong, because in the first half of the season when the Celtics were playing really well, Jaylen Brown came out and said, essentially, I usually get us going. And when I get benched, essentially when I get benched first, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially when I get benched first, it's hard to create that momentum, right? That to me was a little bit eye-opening. So I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just what do you, Seamus? What do you do? That's what
bit of that from Jaylen Brown. What's going on here, folks?
Right. It's just peculiar because last year he was so big on being the vocal leader with Marcus being gone, and he was smiling a lot, and I'm just not getting that vibe from Jaylen Brown right now. I don't know if he's going through something. I'm just not getting it from JP.
Well, do you think? Well, actually, go ahead, Franco. I'll let you speak first before we go off on this tangent.
Yeah, I just honestly think that it is. What is there to be smiling about right now? Your team can't manage to string across a couple wins. I think having a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder type of attitude from Jaylen Brown is to be expected, but we need to see some action put behind it. I liked what we saw from him in the first quarter of today's game. There were a couple of plays where he was really getting the team going. I believe there was one point where he had 12 points and the rest of the Celtics team had 14 at the beginning of today's game. But I think that it's really just taking it a day at a time with this team. They're really trying. It feels like they wish they could hit the sim button on the season. It feels like they could. they wish that it could just be March and May or April, March, May already. And I think we're really just seeing this team a little frustrated because that momentum isn't coming as easily as it did last year. Obviously, they were the fresh team. They were all put together, not a team that people have really seen before. Kind of really made teams take a step back before the game even began. I think we'll see that team start to come back around. I wonder how they're going to be able to bounce back and carry this out into next week with the Monday being with the Rockets. It's really a game by game situation, and just keeping the guys fresh, keeping them healthy, and keeping them motivated to continue playing on. I think looking around the NBA, there's a very, very good chance if the Celtics can crank up the heat, take it up to another level, that they can go into the All-Star break and be at almost an eye level, or be able to see the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have kind of taken a quick slip in their most recent
Franco,
games.
you want to do a victory lap on this so bad right now. Franco, you were saying all first half of the season, you're like, Cavs, just wait for it. Just wait for it. Just wait for it.
Lost
They're
2
gonna
games.
slip.
It is 2 games. I would be a hypocrite if I were to say that we're looking at it now. But what I was waiting for is the Cavs stock to go down and the Celtics stock to go up. I think that's what it's going to take to even this out, obviously, with standings and mathematically, but in a figurative sense as well. I think if the Celtics can span together a couple wins and they can see the Cavs starting to come back down to earth a little bit, I feel like that spark is really going to ignite this team to push forward throughout the rest of the season.
I believe we're only 4.5 or 5 back of the Cavs right now.
Uh,
Still
check
very
that.
attainable.
5.
So,
5. And the
5
Cavs are
after
down
tonight.
by 12 right now. As of this second.
So if they lose this
It'll be 4.5.
game that they're playing right now, it'll be 4.5. That's fairly attainable. Remember the 21-22 Celtics, they went up from 11th to 1st that season, finished second, of course, but they were the first seed at one point in that year. So 4.5 games from 2 to 1, very attainable, in my opinion. I will say about that. It's crazy. We've talked about all the inconsistencies with the Celtics, yet you look at, again, all their numbers, whether it's their record, how many games back they are, the Cleveland Cavaliers, all of their offensive, defensive, net ratings, whatever you want to point at, they're all still pretty good and pretty in the elite category of the NBA, which is just a little strange for this team right now.
It is strange, but I think it's because it's just all happening at once for this team. It's just all big one clumped up stretch. It's not like it was a little bit in the beginning of the season, a little bit for a couple weeks in December, and then now we're going through a little. No, it wasn't spread out like that. It's just from December, middle of December, week of Christmas maybe, to now. That's what the on-off thing has been. It's been in this 7-8 week patch, right? And that's ugly. And when we've been playing like this and we've been racking up the losses, I go and I look at the standings, and a 32-14 record doesn't look like you're racking up any losses. It's just because of how it is and the timing of it, and it's all happening at once. And I think the Celtics will be just fine. And I'm not just saying this after a win. I said this to you on Thursday when we got blown out to the Lakers. I said this to you in text when we lost to the Hawks. I didn't think that was like such an alarming loss. I think it was more of a annoying loss, a word you've used as of late, Seamus, because those mistakes in that game, the Celtics had a 15-point lead at one point in that game, I believe, 14-point lead in that game. I was there. And it dwindled away. And the Atlanta Hawks came back, and the Boston Celtics essentially made some very, very, very childish rec league mistakes down the stretch to lose that ball game. Plays that will not happen and cannot happen come April, May, and June. But I think the Celtics will be just fine. I think this was a really good win. And when they are winning, as of late, they're winning. They're winning. The Orlando game, the Dallas game, and the Golden State game. Celtics, obviously that Clippers game was, that was a trap game. I said that before the game even started. When I saw that injury report, I said, oh, this is the biggest trap game ever. Just win this game. Just win it. When you have that many players out, just win the game. Because guess what? The other 8 guys who are available to play don't normally get this type of opportunity. So they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And that's what the Clippers went out and they did. They played like they had everything to gain and they had nothing to lose. We talk about the Detroit Pistons. Getting in a playoff series against the Detroit Pistons would be a little bit scary. Why? Because they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. This isn't a team that is expected to do anything come postseason. So they'll throw anything and everything they have at you. And that's what the Clippers did. And that's what teams are going to do when they're undermanned. The Dallas Mavericks tonight, no Luka Doncic. Doesn't matter if they have him. Celtics played pretty well against Luka. Celtics will be just fine. This was a very, very good win for this team. And I'm telling you, they have the 2-seeded Houston Rockets coming into town on Monday. So it's a quick flight home tomorrow or tonight. And then you're back in your own bed against the Houston Rockets. That needs to be a win for the Boston Celtics. That needs to be a win for the Boston Celtics. They have to take care of business. Not just because we're sick and tired of the on-off crap. Sick and tired of losing on our damn home court. We go out to the West Coast and we're winning these West Coast games against really tough teams, all la-di-da, and we have the tied for the best road record of the league. And then we go home, a place where how many games did we lose last year, fellas? 6 a total, including playoffs. How many have we lost so far this year? 7 or 8 at home. We have a worse home record than we do road record. Celtics need to win on Monday. Celtics need to look at me. Running through a brick wall. Doc Rivers hyping you up in the locker room. I'm Butu. Huh? But
That's why the Sixers and Bucks just could not get up. They're like Doc Rivers.
But I am serious. I think this Celtics team will be just fine. As of late, we saw a stretch when the Celtics were on and off wins, and those wins weren't even satisfying wins. Right? They were scraped by the skin of our teeth, right? And we've seen some dominant wins. Celtics have now, maybe I'm being too optimistic because I was typing out my Instagram caption. Celtics have now, this was their 5th win in 7 games. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I think the Celtics will be just fine. And I think they're figuring it out game by game. It's tough to say after you just lost by 21, but I think they'll be just fine in this. We got the Houston Rockets, the Chicago Bulls, and the New Orleans Pelicans. 1, 2, 3, all next week. All three, very, very, very winnable. And when you see those very, very, very winnable games on the schedule for the Celtics, that's usually scary. That's actually usually a scary thing.
Yeah, when you say that, I'm going, don't term them like that because we literally, it feels like we're in the same spot as we were at the beginning of January. We went on that 3-game streak at the beginning of January, the New Year's Eve bashing of the Toronto Raptors. Then we won against the Timberwolves, and then we won against the Rockets on the road. And then second half Oklahoma City happens. We can just pass on that real quick. But then we beat Denver, and it was a 4-1 record over 5 games. And we were going, look, 4-1 record, that's great. But now let's go home. Let's beat the Kings. Let's beat the Pelicans. And then you have the Raptors. And then the Celtics inexcusably go 1-2 in those games. And now it feels like there is a little bit of a redemption story to be written right now, going ahead with the schedule in terms of, all right, we just did it again, a 3-1 West Coast road trip. One of the games was completely awful. The Oklahoma City game was awful. The Los Angeles game was awful against the Lakers. And now we're going home and we're playing 3 teams who theoretically, yes, we should be able to beat. But at the same time, the inconsistencies of this team I don't know how much confidence people are really gaining in this team right now that that's going to happen. But this is where it's just going insane talking about the Celtics club, is because there are games that we see that we're looking at it going, this can be the turning the corner, not turning point. Almost said turning point. Almost the band or the building block, right? The one building block, not stepping
Oh my
stone, but a
goodness.
building block. But
Maxi Kleber broke his right foot.
Oh,
that's a terrible injury.
oh,
That is a terrible injury.
Oh.
especially if
They said he just rolled his ankle in the broadcast. Wow. Sorry to
No,
sorry.
that's a terrible
Yeah.
injury, and it's going to affect the Mavericks because that's one of their
They're
better
already
shooters, and they're already thin at the big position
They're
too.
already thin in general. They're
Yeah.
thin in general right now.
But that's where also you look at the Celtics, not to go off on this huge tangent on injuries, but Celtics have had a lot of injury luck this season. They haven't seen a lot of players out of the lineup at all. They really haven't. I mean, you look at, Al Horford and Porzingis, they'll miss games back to back. And there are games in which, Drew Holiday misses here, Derek White or Jaylen Brown. But ultimately, we haven't seen an injury that has taken one of our top 6 out of the starting lineup for a month. Yep. Let's do it. Guys, hear it. Knock on wood. We've had good injury luck. That's what also makes this inconsistent stretch a little perplexing for the Boston Celtics. But I'll say this. I'm gonna feel like I had another point on this point where the Celtics they're trying to redeem themselves in this month of January at this point in time. But it's just time after time. The Celtics, they put up a good game and you think this is going to be the point in which they really turn the corner, put that building block in place, and then it just doesn't happen. But I do want to jump back on the conversation of Jaylen Brown real quick, because Jaylen Brown, over the years, he's had a couple of grifts with people in the locker room, whether players, maybe some coaches in time. You specifically think about one of the players that we played today in Kyrie Irving. Jaylen Brown and Kyrie Irving did not seem to get along at the beginning of Ime Udoka's career. Not saying Jaylen Brown didn't get along with Ime Udoka, but it didn't seem like everybody was on the same page to start Ime Udoka's career. And then, of course, you had Marcus Smart. That whole saga was Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart always on the same page. And this is going to be a compliment to Jaylen Brown, I will say, because Jaylen Brown, he's an intelligent human being. I mean, he has his own opinions. He sees the world in his own way, and not saying it's a different way than other people, but he has the critical thought within his mindset. Does Jaylen Brown like Joe Mazzulla?
Yeah,
Does he like Joe Mazzulla?
wow,
I'm just saying this because I look at it and I go, from an outsider's perspective here, Joe Mazzulla, the other night, right, goes to the presser and goes, I'm excited to be in this stretch right now. The beginning of the season was boring. This is exciting. And it's like, that's just a goofball statement. The other day against the Los Angeles Clippers, doesn't get the timeout and then acts like a child to get the next timeout. And Joe Mazzulla, there are just goofball moments where it feels like, oh yeah, he's trying to be a serious head coach, but then he'll come across as, I just want to use the term, a complete goofball. He just will. And that's part of being really a younger head coach, number one. I mean, let's face it, he's younger than Al Horford. Al Horford is literally older than Joe Mazzulla, a player playing on the court. And secondly, he was hoisted into the job 2.5 seasons ago, that was. And that's just what's going to come with that sort of transition within the head coaching ranks and really the organizational ranks. But I almost wonder, Jaylen Brown, if his body language is off, what exactly is it off over? What is it over? Is it Joe Mazzulla? Is it the way the Celtics are being coached? Because I even look at the way the Celtics sometimes wake up for games. Sometimes we look at it and go, okay, this is on the players to wake up and come out and execute. And you'll see moments in time where Joe specifically wants something to happen on the floor, doesn't happen, and he'll become angry at the team. He's laid into Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis. We've seen him do it before. But at the same time, sometimes the players, you need to look at the head coach and the coaching staff and how that coaching staff gets the players up to play. We're not seeing that on a nightly basis with this Celtics team. There are nights where they're obvious. The Lakers game, that was not a night anybody got up to play. The Clippers game, another night nobody really got up to play. The Raptors game, nobody really got up to play. And it does it fall a little bit back on Joe Mazzulla to the point of, I'm not saying Joe Mazzulla is the problem here at all. I'm not putting everything on Joe Mazzulla, but could there be an unsaid rift in the locker room at points in time that does translate out onto the floor and translate out into the player's body language, specifically Jaylen Brown, who is an intelligent human being who is going to really let his frustrations known when there are some.
There's got to be some respect there. I think that Jaylen Brown.
I'm not saying they don't respect him, but
there's a difference, like and respect. But when it comes to being a coach, you would rather be respected than liked. I think a relationship that is only can be bonded, and I think that they're two strong-minded guys. We've always said that Joe Mazzulla is more of a leader of men than a coach. We've seen that in gameplay. We've seen even in tonight's game. It seemed like there were a lot of times that the team would stray away from calling out plays, setting up play sets on the offensive side, really just to letting the ball flow, being able to find their open looks, and just really riding hot hands at Derek White, for example, or Drew Holiday being able to get his shot flowing tonight from the 3-point range. But I think Jaylen Brown will be able to make amends, and they definitely have had some passionate conversations behind closed doors that we haven't heard of, but that can only improve this team, especially if Jaylen Brown is voicing frustration where there should be frustration voiced. If you're expecting to be the number one team contending back-to-back champions, you need to demand perfection from your teammates. You need to be able to hold everyone accountable, and you need to be able to hope everyone can step up. You even look up to your coach. You look up to the players. You look at the 13th, 12th guy on the bench to be able to step up in the moments where you need someone else to perform. I think Jaylen Brown has done a decent job of getting those types of performances out of himself, and who knows, maybe if it sparks a big riff and they can be able to agree upon it, we'll see that consistency within this team come back around. I think it's just gaining that F 'em all type of mentality again for this team, and really having that thing to prove going forward, being questioned by either themselves or the media. How good can we actually be? Because they all know it. They were all in the locker room. They were all on the court when that championship banner was raised. But it's something that they really need to find that spark within themselves again.
I think they're fine. Honestly, I think they're. I don't think there's any issue.
You don't think there's any issue, Justin?
No.
You don't think there's any disagreement behind the scenes? None?
No.
At this point in time?
I think
Everybody's on the same page?
I think he'd prefer to play in the first quarters, and as he just said, I prefer. I think he'd prefer to not be benched in the first quarter. I strike
that
him
to
down.
me is a quote that is just boom at the heart of Mazzulla. Like, I'm not happy with what Mazzulla's doing.
I'm sure they have their differences, but there's nothing.
I'm not saying these guys hate each other. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, could there be some disagreement playing into what we're seeing in terms of the body language out there, where it's like, I'm not exactly down with this coaching right now. I'm not going to come out here and I'm not excited to play. From specifically Jaylen Brown's perspective, could be others too, because it's really, at times, it feels like others have not been on the court either in terms of their want to play.
There could be, but I think everything's sunshine and rainbows. I do. I think they're all right.
Sound like the pressers, honestly. And this is another thing with the
What do you
press
mean?
conferences. You would think that everything is fine and good if you were just listening to the press conferences and never watching the games.
I
But
think everything is good. I do. I don't think
no,
there's
I'm saying like just a normal person in terms of like if you only watch the pressers, you would think the Celtics are actually undefeated right now, the way they talk. Like that is the way they talk at their press conferences.
I think
like they are always just fine.
You know what?
But is it fine?
I think
Like losing games every other game is definitely not fine to me.
I don't think Joe Mazzulla is a goofball for liking this stretch. I think that's the competitiveness in him. I think that's I don't mind the adversity. He knows that the Celtics, I'm not going to say walk to the finals because guess what? These guys are some of the greatest basketball players on this entire planet. But a 16-3 finals record, you're walking through. And this is some adversity for this team that they haven't seen since May of 2023 when they were down 0-3 in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. I mean, they dominated. They walked through the regular season last year. No more than 2 consecutive losses. Yes, they've been on and off right now this past month and a half, but we have not seen a stretch yet of 2 or more consecutive losses. And I think that 500 ball is their biggest adversity that they've faced in almost 2 years. And I think he should like that. We shouldn't get used to just walking through the league. We should. Yeah, I'm not saying that he should like losing. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, I think he's embracing it. I think he's respecting it. I think he's acknowledging it. Then I think he wants the team to acknowledge it, that it isn't going to be all sunshine and rainbows. We're not going to win 64 games every season. We're not going to go 16-3. That's not a guaranteed. It's proof in the pudding. The last 7 teams haven't got back-to-back the last 7 years. So I think this is more of a reality check for this team, and I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, and I'm not saying that we're not going to go back to the finals and Cleveland this and Milwaukee that. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that Joe Mazzulla, I think that everything's good between Mazzulla and Brown. I'm sure there's disagreements, but who doesn't disagree? Like everybody disagrees about everything, right? And you disagree with me all the time.
I disagree right now. Like all I want is Mazzulla to say that he's mad in these pressers.
Why?
Tell the truth. Like for me, when you go up there and you're like, I love this stretch of 500 basketball, and I just
why can't he love it? Why can't he love it?
Because we're losing every other game.
Why
That's
can't
what it's like. He's competitive, but he's like, I'm really fine with us going and losing every other game.
I get it.
It's like I can see his point, but at the same time, I go, why are we going? Why are we excited? Why? This is not exciting. Nobody is excited right now over this. We're internally, I know he's actually mad. Like as a competitive person, he's mad. But then he shows up at the press conference and goes, no, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. This is just what it is. And it's like, yeah, you're right. This is what it is. That's the humility in all of this. But at the same time, I go, this is something you're upset with, Joe. He's not upfront to the media about it.
You need to
He's
love
upset. You see it on court too.
You need to love the taste of your own blood. You need to be able to lick that up. You need to be able to eat those punches. You need to be able to take those losses and keep your head on straight. I think that he's doing a fantastic job of that. You can't be showing your weaknesses to other teams. You can't be showing that you're frustrated. That means that you are defeated. That means you are lost. That means you are confused. He is the coach of this team. He needs to be able to take it as it is. He can't be the one out there playing, and he can't be the one in the press conferences bitching about his players, wishing that they could have done better when he knows what they need to do better, and all he has to do is implement that.
My issue is literally he never says anything in the press conferences as if the team is doing anything wrong. And it's like, how? How is that the
talks
case?
about it all the time. He talks about all the margins that they lose and why they lose. He keeps it real. He'll tell you the play. He'll tell you the exact play in the first quarter that lost them the game. He'll tell you the exact play. This guy's an animal. I don't think he's a goofball at all. And guess what?
I think he's a total goofball.
Guess what?
Totally.
Yeah. Guess what? The other night when you were talking about that, they missed he was at half court jumping up and down, and they didn't call the timeout call. 6 seconds run off the clock. 6 seconds run off the clock. So then when the Clippers had the ball, they missed a shot, whatever happened. Joe Mazzulla is right there. He was giving it to the refs, jumping up and down in their face, calling a timeout. Because guess what? You let 6 damn precious seconds in a tight game go off. And what if the Celtics turn the ball over? Which they were pretty friggin' prone to doing that night when it came down the stretch. Absolutely, Joe. I love that from Joe Mazzulla. The other night, Atlanta Hawks, Jason Tatum and Okongwu, who I think it was, jump ball. They start tussling, shoving each other. What does Mazzulla do? Come in, claps in their face. I love this. Let's go. Let's go. That's not a goofball. That's a competitor. I want more coaches like that. It shows he cares. I want coaches like that. I don't think he's a goofball at all.
But see, this is where the conversation doesn't make sense. On one hand, it's like, oh, the weaknesses, they're being shown. But on the other hand, when he actually shows all these weaknesses,
how is that a
something
weakness?
it is. It's a complete weakness out on the floor when you're going, oh, they didn't give us a timeout. Oh, in the next play, I'm just gonna jump in the ref's face and be a little kid about it. That's a weakness. That's a complete weakness because ultimately they know you're trying to call a timeout now because you just yelled in their face for the last 10 seconds about it.
Pay attention to me. That's what it is. You don't want to pay attention to me. I'm going to make you pay attention to me. You don't want to listen to me? In a close game? Damn right I'm going to get up in your face and call a timeout. You didn't see me. You didn't hear me. I just think Joe's fine. I think Joe's fine. I don't think he's corny. I don't think he's a goofball. He tells you how it is.
No.
He tells you how it is.
You want to try to fight my best player? I'm gonna square up with you if you try to swing on him. Like that. That's literally what Joe Mazzulla was out on that court about to do. If Gafford or whoever it was tried to get any more bigger into the scuffle, tried to turn it into a squabble, Joe Mazzulla was there to help him out with that. And
what's the big deal over that?
Yeah,
I love
no,
that.
I
didn't have a rift over what Franco's talking about right now. I'm saying what Joe Mazzulla talks about in his press conferences sometimes and how he kind of angles himself. It's really the angle in which I see with Joe Mazzulla. It's like, why can't we be frustrated right now? That's what I want to see out of this team in order to be good again. I want guys to care. And it seems like sometimes it's like they don't care. They do care. They do care. But I'm saying they present themselves as if they don't. And it's this nonchalant attitude that we see play out in games like the Toronto game and in the Lakers game. And everybody acts like, oh, Porzingis against the Magic, where it's like, oh, yeah, it's a compliment to us on how much they're celebrating out there and how much, oh, well, we're just so good that we lost against the Magic and, oh, they're celebrating because this is their Super Bowl, this is their championship, but, oh, we know when the real championship comes around, we'll be fine, I don't like to see that. I don't like to see it. I don't like it, and that's the vibe they give out.
Yeah, well,
and that's my problem with it.
I think
in terms of... Go ahead, Franco.
No, I think that they're doing it behind closed doors. You don't think that?
I totally agree with that. I am in 100% agreement with that.
Especially our Boston media, they will take anything, any word you say. It's like you just got to put in the back of the cop car. Anything you do or say can and will be held against you in contempt of court. That's how Boston.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now with even their I don't want to call them liars, but in terms of when you're suggesting everything's fine to the media when it's not fine behind, this is what we know. We know that behind the scenes that things are not fine. They're fine in terms of maybe relationships, but they're not fine in terms of contentness with what is happening with this Boston Celtics club right now. The inconsistencies, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Joe Mazzulla, Kristaps, Drew Holiday, Derek White, they're not idiots. They see what's happening. They see their own play. If we can sit here on this broadcast, Justin, you always call us the three goons here on this broadcast. If we can see it as us, the goons, why can't the actual players see it? Like they do see it. They do see it. It's just the way they present themselves out to the world that sometimes, for me personally, I'm not always a fan of it, because I believe that they're frustrated and I believe that they understand the inconsistencies and that they're working on them behind the scenes. But then when they present themselves that way, I do look with the side eye and go, okay, are we actually to a point of motivation to want to change what's wrong? Or are we literally just sitting back and waiting for a time of the year to go out there and build the habits that we should be building right now? And that's that's what kind of kills me sometimes.
It does
About specifically the press conferences.
Well, the press conferences tick me off. Not Joe Mazzulla. I could care less about Joe Mazzulla. The players who are playing, who are shooting, who are dribbling, who are playing defense, constantly talking about specifically the effort that comes from the players. And I said this in the group chat the other. I'm like, these guys come out and they talk about their effort and they talk about how they're just not clicking right now and what they need to do. Then do it. Then do it. If you guys know exactly what's wrong, just do it. I don't care what time of the year it is or who you're playing. Do it. So, I mean, come on. Do it. It's
I agree.
ridiculous.
I completely agree with it, because it just there's a weird energy around this team right now, and maybe it's because of the title last year, maybe it's because of the 19-4 start, maybe it's because of how dominant they were as a squad last year, but there's just an odd energy right now, especially in the month of January. I mean, even December, it was, it was getting a little loosey-goosey there at the end, but we weren't hitting the panic. We're still not hitting the panic button on this team. Let's be clear about that. But we weren't even hitting. I was hitting the concern button. I'm even still hitting the concern button. I'm one game. I'm not letting it sway me anymore. Although we'll see. Like, this could actually be the point in which we turn the corner, and this will be hilarious later on in time.
Franco.
Let's do it.
He said
I
it.
know. I didn't say turning point. I said point in which we turn the corner. Well, very different. Very different from the banned words. See, you got to write it specifically in law, and the lawyer will pick you apart. But
build it. Yeah, whatever.
No stepping stones, only building blocks here.
That's what it was. Nobody said stepping stones.
The building blocks
I'm
come
not
into play to
insane.
build
I've
the
heard that
stairs.
before.
That's what it is. You build stairs, building blocks,
What
and
was
then the whole house.
What was the other word? Stepping stones.
Turning point and stepping stones. Franco banned here. Then it was building blocks. And we're turning the corner now. That's what it is.
That's actually 4 words, not even 3.
Well, I don't know how many words. I didn't put a number on them. Just saying. Steve Nash versus Chris Paul. I mean, man, this is one of the best matchups
that's the
we've ever
second
seen.
time. The last 2 shows you did in the Orlando game.
But
ridiculous, dude.
But I do believe, though, right now in January, the vibe around the team, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this before. We can compare these stretches to seasons prior, but those seasons weren't defending champions. They didn't have a ring, and we would all say about those teams, what if they were conducting themselves like this team is right now? We would all be saying, you haven't won anything yet. How can you be saying these things when you haven't won anything? This team has some leeway from the fact they have won something. They were one of the most dominant teams in NBA history last year, and now this year they've taken a step back, but everyone still believes, including themselves, that they're going to be there in the end. And it is this, what does one believe? Do they believe, all right, this is going to turn up? Now, I think that's actually what most in Celtics Nation want to believe at the end of the day. But then there's this other side of going, are they tired? Are they too content with themselves right now? Do they have the same motivation as, say, a Cavs team or a Thunder team? Everybody's going nuts about those 2 teams. But let's face it, folks. Let's make this guarantee. I haven't made a guarantee in a while. The 2025 NBA Finals will not be against the Oklahoma City and the Cleveland Cavaliers. They will not play each other in the 2025 NBA Finals. Everybody's screaming from the rooftops about that in January of 2025. It's never like that in the NBA. The only stretch, the only era we went through like that was Cavs Warriors. And even 2018 Cavs Warriors was not completely guaranteed. That one should have been the Celtics and Warriors part one. Instead, we had to settle for part one 4 years later. But ultimately, those teams still have the hunger that we don't quite see in the Boston Celtics right now, but we still see the talent around the Boston Celtics. We still see the history of the Boston Celtics, of course, that give us all confidence. But they're stretching it. The team is stretching it. Whether it's mostly on court. It's not solely in the press conferences where they're stretching it, but it can be in the press conferences the way they give themselves off to the rest of the world and the media. But yeah, right now the inconsistencies of the Celtics team. I mean, even this one win tonight, we're talking about the inconsistencies because we're seeing it yet again. Oh, and nice blowout win here against the Dallas Mavericks after we just lost one of the worst games of the season to the Los Angeles Lakers. And now what will happen moving forward? None of us can actually predict. I mean, what is actually going to happen when we move forward against the Houston Rockets? We just blew out the Rockets a couple of weeks ago. Then we saw we blew out the Raptors, and then we came and lost to the Raptors 2 weeks later. But transitioning on to another subject here, because we've been talking maybe more negatively about the Boston Celtics, but there are positives to hit within this game. There are positives to hit. And one of those positives is, of course, our player spotlight tonight, Mr. Derek White. Now, Derek White, I'm just waiting. I was waiting for either him or Drew Holiday, and we'll talk about Drew Holiday in a little bit. Waiting for one of him or Drew Holiday to take over this player spotlight graphic because, man, we have not seen a lot of them this season on this graphic after seeing them pretty much every other game last year. But Derek White, he stepped up tonight, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He was a +7 in the plus minus box, 7 of 16 from the floor, 4 of 10 from 3. And what made this performance so impressive out of Derek White is the fact Derek White, he actually started this game out terribly. Started shooting from the floor, 1 of 7. Of course, in the second half, though, shot 6 of 9, scored 18 points out of his 23 in the second half, and really contributed to that Boston Celtics 25-point lead and really the runaway with the rest of the game. So Derek White, after really this entire season, I want to say out of the first 10 to 20 games, Derek White has not been up to par of what we know he can play like. But when he contributes to the Boston Celtics like this, we see the Boston Celtics come out with a blowout win, and he is certainly one of those X factors that come around with the Boston Celtics, and of course can affect an entire game. But guys, what did you think? Oh, we're just me. It's just me and Franco now. I don't know where Justin went.
Quick little bathroom pardon for Justin, but
should have left the graphic up. Did he? Well, whatever. Franco, what do you think about Derek White tonight before Justin comes back here?
It was a what have we been asking for from Derek White for probably the entire stretch of inconsistency from the Celtics? Is the floaters and cutting to the rim. He was able to do that very effectively tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, who were shorthanded. And he was also stepping up on the defensive end as well, being able to guard on ball, taking on the matchups of Dinwiddie and Kyrie. He was doing a good job of guarding, and he was really an energy player for tonight. He was getting the ball back, and it was really shades of what we saw from Derek White during the playoff run that we really haven't seen as much of from this season. It's something that really sets the Celtics team apart when you have Derek White performing at a high level, and especially him being able to have 20 points and shoot effectively from the field and 3-point range. You'll be able to see the players around him play off of that because he's one of the main facilitators for the Celtics right now, especially with the transition of the offense switching more into a Jason Tatum primarily focus. And that might be an adjustment that this team is making recently. And we're really just hoping that this consistency from Derek White can continue. And I think that if he gains his momentum, you'll start to see everyone else starting to fall in place. And I'm not talking about our two stars, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, but really the role players. And he's one of those players that you can leave in when you want one of your star players to sit out, and he can work in with the rotational players. He can work with the Housers. He can work with Pritchard. He really mends well with a lot of the lineups the Celtics put out because of how versatile of a player he is. But tonight was just a really throwback game to last year for Derek White, and I think that he really helped out the Celtics, especially with the matchup with Luka being out of the lineup.
So I'm on NBA.com here. I wish we could share the screen, but 3 of his 6 makes were in the paint tonight for Derek White. We talk about it with Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, but I think Derek White is just so good at getting downhill, attacking the basket. I think that just creates so much offense for this team. We've seen that. We saw this last year for Derek White, and really Derek White's best stretch of being a Boston Celtic was last year. And this year we see him hanging around the perimeter a lot, and it's like kind of weird just because his 3-point shot has improved significantly, but that's not where he is best used. But what I will say is recently he's starting to knock down those shots, starting to break that slump just a little bit, not shooting the most efficient numbers, but he is starting to make those jumpers, and that's really, really a positive sign as well. Derek White tonight, I love what I saw from him all night long, and he really brings it defensively every night. We rarely say anything bad about Derek White. Recently, we've been kind of on him just for his poor shooting, and he really, hasn't contributed much on the offensive end of the floor. Obviously, his defense has been spectacular, but I'd love to see Derek White really, really attack the basket and create more offense. And but I can't complain with a game like tonight. He played very, very, very good.
Well, this is what I want to ask you guys about Derek White and the rest of the Boston Celtics, because we see guys like Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, even Kristaps Porzingis. They'll have good games for the Celtics, yet not always wins, right? We see Pritchard sometimes out there. Good game, not always wins. And of course, it does come with the collective team effort, but it seems like every time Derek White has a good game, right, performs well, Celtics do come out with a win. So for you guys, do you actually see Derek White as the X factor of the Boston Celtics in terms of being really the pendulum that swings one way or the other? Derek White has a good game, the Celtics are going to win. If he has a bad game, it's going to be maybe so, maybe not. Do you guys see Derek White as that player for the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, I think we could say that fairly enough for all 5 of the Celtic starters, and we can also include Peyton Pritchard in that conversation, especially just how it's stacked on talent and how much potential this offense has. Usually, if everyone is connecting on all cylinders for the Boston Celtics, you're looking at Derek White as the 4th option, maybe sometimes the 5th option on the offensive side of the floor. And he's really had to mold his game around that and mold his game around being a whole bunch of other scoring shot creators, scorers, and people who really can create their offense by themselves. But when you have Derek White contributing, that means almost everyone else has to be on par with what's going on. He is almost like the finishing touch for the Boston Celtics offense, and to use this term, a cherry on top when everything's going for them. And it almost is what ignites this team when they're going into those types of runs. Usually when you're seeing the Celtics go on a 20-point stretch where they're growing their lead, you're seeing Derek White being the one to put back those shots, being able to make that big 3 to expand the lead to a 20-point margin. So I'm really hoping to see the Celtics continue to utilize that and especially utilize him off ball on the offensive side when he's moving around, going baseline to baseline, even running around just to be a flared out option while Tatum's cutting to the rim or Brown's cutting to the rim. It opens up the Celtics offense so much, and especially when the shot's falling, it almost makes the Celtics unguardable because you need to focus on the Celtics one player at a time, and you can't do that when all 4 or 5 on the court are contributing.
Well,
I
Justin,
think.
do you see? Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you see another player really fulfilling that role of Derek White in terms of, like we said, there are multiple other players on the team who can play well, but it just seems like the correlation is within Derek White's game. Do you see another player on the team really being the correlating factor as much as Derek White is with the Boston Celtics right now?
I don't. This is crazy to say, but we were talking about Springer the other night, and
Ooh, that's pretty bold.
It is bold, but here's the thing, and I stand on the whole thing with Jaden Springer, and the fact is, one, we haven't seen him much, but when we have seen him, he's been very, very effective for the Celtics team, which shocks me because we don't see him much, right? It's like he played pretty good in that Clippers game, he played pretty good in that Lakers game, and we haven't really seen him other than those 2 games. We've seen him in 40-second stints towards the end of quarters when the Celtics need a stop, but other than that, you don't see it. Jaden Springer, he's young. He already has a defensive package. Derek White, great defender. Love to see Jaden. And I talked about this on Thursday with you, where I see signs of Avery Bradley out of Jaden Springer. If he could just get that offense, if he could get that shot consistently. He's been shooting the ball pretty well the past couple games for the Celtics, but if he could get that shot consistent, he could get some offense in his game. Who knows? Who knows? We talk about replacements. We talk about Xavier Tillman being young. He just got extended. Is he Al Horford's placement as Al Horford's on his way out? Nehemiah Queta and Luke Cornett just got extended. Like, are those guys, Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford's replacement for when Horford retires and Porzingis gets hurt? We talk about Peyton Pritchard with Drew Holiday turning 35 years old later this year. So who knows? Does Jaden Springer slot in that rotation sometime soon? I don't know. It's hard to tell, and it's really hard to replace the role of Derek White. I mean, Derek White is a jack of all trades for this team. Truly one of the best moves in recent Celtics history, bringing Derek White to Boston for Romeo Langford and Josh Richardson, as well as a first-round pick. And I remember at the trade deadline, we were so hyped to get Derek White, by the way. But we were also, not necessarily us, but the question in the chat, I remember, and the question on social media, Celtics Twitter was it worth the first-round pick?
We're still waiting on that, to be fair. We're still waiting on that.
Was it worth the first-round pick?
Be the next Wemby, the Spurs draft.
That first-round pick he's 15 years old right now. Whoever that first-round pick is going to be, he is 15 years old. So if we're worried about what a 15, I mean, obviously we're going to be looking at in the future, but we can't be worried about what a 15-year-old draft prospect is going to, and the Celtics are missing out on.
I think I am not worried one bit about Derek White in his game. I'm hoping that he breaks out. I really do think it's just a slump for Derek White, as we see it with all the players. Does it come down to strictly the shooting percentages taking a dip in these past 6 to 7 weeks? Everybody's shooting percentages down low. Is that a test to it? I don't know. But I don't see – I'm not sure I see a clear vision on somebody who would take a Derek White-esque type role. If you were to ask me, probably Jaden Springer, right? We talk about who to replace Drew Holiday, talk about Peyton Pritchard. For me, it'd be Jaden Springer. I haven't seen much out of Jordan Walsh, at least consistently enough. Xavier Tillman is just absolutely non-existent. So for me, it would be Jaden Springer. And I'm surprised how well J.D. Davison has been playing in the G League and how we have an open roster spot. I'm surprised Franco wasn't just harping on J.D. Davison finally getting his opportunity, because certain people are struggling in the Celtics lineup right now. But for me, be very hard to replace a Derek White-esque type role. But if I had to pick somebody, it'd be Jaden.
But yeah, for me, Derek White, in terms of just being the X factor on the Boston Celtics, I oddly enough believe now in the past we said Peyton Pritchard has been this player, but I believe Derek White could actually be the most important player on the Boston Celtics in terms of if he's playing well, the Celtics they have a phenomenal chance to win. If he's not playing well, things are not going to go as well for the Boston Celtics. And ultimately, Derek White, I think we've seen that this season a lot with the Celtics. It's when Derek White, if he's not up to par, if he's not playing to his standards, the Celtics really struggle. They really do because they rely on the production of Derek White as a starter within the starting lineup next to Brown, Tatum, Holiday, and Porzingis to be the player that we really saw the beginning of last year, but even in the playoffs last year. That's where Derek White really made his biggest impact on this Celtic squad. And this season, it's been few and far between when those games come around. But when they do, we see tonight 18 points in the second half. It's almost like you have another all-star out there if you're the Boston Celtics. And not only do you have that scoring presence, you have the two-way presence of Derek White as well. And for me, it comes down to really his decision making because it's not as if he's lost all of his ability to do what he did last season. It's more of the fact this year we've talked about it multiple times. It's come more on the perimeter for him when in terms of shot chucking, in terms of shooting the ball. That's where Derek White, that's where some of his biggest regressions have come is on the perimeter where, oh, there's one pass and Derek White shoots the ball, or oh, Derek White just dribbles into a three. And we don't need to see that. We need to see the methodical nature of the Celtics offense play out, whether that's Derek White driving hard, driving aggressively. We saw that a lot against the Orlando Magic a couple weeks ago. And that's really what stuck out in that game to me is how aggressive Derek White was. And even in that Toronto game earlier, Toronto, Houston, Orlando, all three of those games, Derek White was phenomenal in terms of his aggression going towards the rim. But when he's shooting the ball, can't get past. It lasted more than 10 minutes. I will say that. It lasted about an hour.
It's falling. It's falling.
Yep. You could tell. You could tell. You need to get him a new. Okay, guys, GoFundMe for Franco to buy him a new camera stand here. You gotta get the tripod. You gotta get a mini
subscribe
tripod.
and use Celtics Talk Weekly at the gift or at the when you're done shopping on Celtic on SeatGeek. Use that for that $20 off. I can now get a camera.
So he won't be making any profit off that.
Yeah, we need some production value around here. I can't even get a camera to stay up the entire time.
It's way better. The other day, not to go on too far of a tangent here, but the other day I posted that archive clip and I'm like, what was my camera like? Why was I so like I'm like staring down at the camera in that post game show and I'm like, what was it? What was even holding up my camera? And I remember there was this long table with like two cardboard boxes on it. And I just like slid the cardboard boxes like this and put my phone up. So we've actually, I would say, the production since 2022 or 2021, it's come a little bit of a way here for each of us. Maybe not Franco so much as we were seeing tonight.
We were in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't contain myself. Franco's camera kept falling over. It just kept going and going, and he didn't notice it falling either. It slowly was teetering over, and I don't know how he didn't notice it.
No, Bucket Squad over. You get 10% off Bucket Squad. Get $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek, please.
And yeah, that's the ad read that I actually didn't do when we were doing the player spotlight here.
Yeah,
use code Celtics Weekly for 20% off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Go hit them up so we can go get Franco a new camera stand here. That's what we need.
Holding it up with a pencil and clear duct tape or clear tape.
You just gotta wrap that thing. It's not even duct tape. He just got the Scotch tape out tonight. That's what he's doing. But going back on the point of Derek White here for real quick, because what I was talking about is Derek White. The last point I was going to make is when he's shooting the ball, it's got to come off of multiple actions from the Celtics offense. It has to come off of dribbling downhill if you're Tatum or Brown, getting towards the rim, collapsing the defense, making the defense help, and then finding Derek White wide open in the corner. Or you say, oh, Drew Holiday's out there, find him in the corner. Oh, they collapse on Drew Holiday. Oh, who's on the wing? It's Derek White. Those are the type of threes we want to see Derek White shoot, not the dribble step up threes with 8 seconds in the shot clock gone. We don't want to see that Derek White at all. We don't want to see, the Celtics dribbling at the top of the key. Oh, pass to Derek White once. Nobody drove. Nobody did anything. And, he's jacking up a three. Those are the type of shots we don't want to see. We want to see the methodical nature of the Celtics offense play out into more opportunity for Derek White. But speaking of more opportunity for the Boston Celtics, and which came out tonight, another guard within the rotation. We talked about the guard rotation this year. White, Holiday, Peyton Pritchard. They've all been phenomenal at different points in time, but this particular guard for the Celtics was phenomenal tonight, and it is, of course, Justin's Flowers. Jrue Holiday, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 of 12 from the floor, 5 of 10 from 3, 2 stocks, 1 steal, 1 block for Jrue Holiday tonight. And it was pretty evident early on in this game, Jrue was going to have a different type of performance than what we've been getting used to this season, which is Jrue not always bringing it the same way he did last year. But when he does, you see how impactful he can be for the Boston Celtics, both offensively and defensively. The offensive end of the floor was phenomenal for Jrue tonight. 17 points, 11 points came in the first half when the Celtics were kind of in the mud there in the first quarter. Jrue Holiday got him out of it a little bit, specifically on that first possession of the game. He actually missed a layup, but he was aggressive in terms of going to the rim, using his physicality down low against the Dallas Mavericks. See his shot 5 of 10 from 3, 6 of 12 from the floor. Jrue Holiday finally getting up on a graphic tonight. The 2 guards we're talking about at length here right now, Derek White. Franco, we got what? If we come back, it's like, do I have to leave the graphic up right now? The camera's just not working.
Again. He dropped his camera again in the promo. Oh gosh, that reminds me. Use code Celtics Talk Weekly during checkout at Bucket Squad. Bucket Squad creates some amazing, comfortable basketball merchandise, clothing brand. Rob has some Bucket Squad merch that they sent to him. Really cool designs, great to ball in, great to go out in. It's a great brand, really great brand. So use code Celtics Talk Weekly at checkout for 10% off your first purchase, or any purchase, I believe it is. So make sure you use a lot of Bucket Squad codes, because Franco, his camera is falling as frequently as the threes were falling tonight for Jrue Holiday. And Jrue Holiday's game tonight was poetic. It was flowing on both ends of the floor tonight, something that we really haven't seen much of from Jrue Holiday. His shot was there tonight. He was shooting at a solid clip. I believe it was 50%, the graphic said. So he's hitting shots, and I also liked the timing of him hitting shots. Every time Dallas kind of went on a little mini run, kind of like, ooh, are they going to do this? Are we going to do this? It was just 21. Now it's 11. Are we going to do? Oh, nope. Jrue Holiday 3. Okay, I can breathe. Right.
Finally saw
Tweety
this.
Bird.
Finally.
And we saw the pocket full of threes for our boy D White, player spotlight. We saw Tweety Bird 3 for our Flowers tonight, Jrue Holiday. So it was really good to see the stock exchange offensively tonight. Usually we're talking about the defensive end for those guys. Offensively, those guys were both clicking tonight, both flowing. A combined 40 points for Derek White and Jrue Holiday tonight. Franco, Jrue Holiday, this is a guy where, coming off of a really historic year shooting the ball. Remember, a 60% clip from that three-point corner shot. And tonight, this year, kind of slowed down a little bit. All his shooting numbers are significantly down, kind of showing his age a little bit. I hate to throw that out there, but what did you like from Jrue tonight in this finals rematch?
I like the effort that he was bringing on the defensive end, and it was the first time we've really seen Jrue shoot the ball with confidence. really so far this season since the 19-4 stretch. There were a few games that he had over 20 points during that run in the beginning of the season, but this is the first time they were really letting him have it from deep. He was able to make his shots, and it looked like he was getting his looks in the corner, which advanced to him being able to create his own opportunities with a few off the dribble shots, being able to get to the mid range, and also being able to score down low. I think that we've used this term for other players on this team, but I really think it mainly refers to Drew Holiday, which is the Swiss Army knife. I think he is capable of doing so much on the court. He can guard 1 to 4, maybe even include the 5 on some matchups, and he is able to make plays on the defensive side. And what we're really looking for is him to contribute on the offensive side. Like I said with Derek White, you can expect more of these offensive performances from Derek White, but when you get him out of Drew Holiday, it's especially sweet because he was someone who really was kind of looked at just as an additional piece last year and a key additional piece last year. But he's really found his mold within the Celtics offense, and it's usually him taking the back seat on the scoring board. But when he's able to contribute scoring, it really brings this team to a whole nother level.
It's nice to see Drew Holiday have such a good game like this, just days and honestly weeks after Franco had him in every single trade on the trade finder on ESPN.
I didn't.
After conversations of Peyton Pritchard entering the starting lineup, replacing Drew Holiday.
I did not.
It was a really good. It was a really, really good Drew Holiday
my
game.
Name out your mouth.
Well, it's true. I remember specifically
I said it. I did it
having
once.
a conversation.
I did it once.
And I never did it. And guess who?
Well, you're not on
tonight.
Fanspo, buddy.
So
it's okay. This morning I was trying to see if we could maybe flip Derek White for Zach LaVine somehow. I had no idea how that was going to work, but
Seamus, you're gonna have to teach Franco about the cap space, man. I don't think he realizes that we can't do all these moves and everything. He comes out with all these he's the type of play. He's the type of guy who doesn't understand the cap space.
I do.
Wacky trade. He'll send you a wacky trade. Jaden Springer to Xavier Tillman for John Morant. It's just that's the type of trades that he sends in the group chat. Just doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Now you're making me out to be what's the word of the day today? Goofball. You're trying to make me seem like a goofball.
That's Franco's word of the day, huh? Doing your thesaurus over there. Huh?
Pull it out.
That's probably holding up his camera right now. He can't even grab it. He can't even grab it. Okay. I'm just saying. I was very proud to give this award out tonight to Drew Holiday, who has apparently been on Franco's chopping block. So
he has not.
It was good to give the award out.
Oh yeah, Drew Holiday.
Red tie 40 RFK Jr. over there.
Now we got mudslinging going on here.
Yeah, that's
total mudslinging. But in terms of Drew Holiday tonight, this was a more classic Drew Holiday type of a game, in my opinion, because last season we saw Drew Holiday. He was on quite a few graphics. The player spotlight graphic, of course, tonight he's on the Flowers graphic, and we're giving him props. But he was on that player of the game graphic a lot last season, and
yeah, he was.
I honestly, every thumbnail that comes past our view for each and every game, I'm wondering, when is it time to put Drew Holiday on a thumbnail? When is it time? When? Because he hasn't been on one since the Bucks game a month and a half ago.
And why would
saying? Because he hasn't performed up to the level of everybody else who's been on those thumbnails, whether it's Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, even Derek White a little bit. Cornet had one in there against the Wizards.
He should have a lot more than the Wizards.
Well,
Should
this
have
is just that
no,
one game.
not the Flowers conversation again.
He went off against the Wizards that game against Jordan Poole. It's Jordan Poole and Luke Cornett. Everybody go check out that post game, by the way. It's one of our least viewed post games when you have Luke Cornett and Jordan Poole
Hey,
on a thumbnail together. It's the Wizards Celtics. What are you going to do? It's a Sunday night between the Wizards and Celtics. What are we going to do here? Oh, and the Cavs lose by 4. They still score 131.
yeah, but they give up 135.
I mean, they score a lot of points. They really score. That's why defense is important for the Boston Celtics and why Drew Holiday is so important on the Boston Celtics because he provides that defensive presence. But even offensively, if he's giving you anything offensively, and really, I shouldn't say anything, but what he was providing offensively last year for the Celtics was he was really getting down low inside the paint, really getting his physical body down there, roughing up his defender, bringing him out towards the, or not out towards the inside the paint near the rim and inside the lane, really taking him to the house, almost like he was a big himself. They used him a lot, the Celtics did, in the dunker spot last year. And also from the Celtics offense, he was hitting corner three after corner three after corner three last season. We just have not seen a lot of any of what I just said from Drew Holiday this season. And there's been games where he's been literally non-existent within the Celtics offense. You could say that about last game. You can say that about many games this month and even in the month of December as well from Drew Holiday. Yet on the nights where he is existent in the Celtics offense, and just their team in its entirety looks completely different. It just does. Drew Holiday, when he's playing up to the level we know he's capable of, which we're all questioning right now, is it going to come back towards the playoffs? Why is it so inconsistent? Why do we only see it once in a blue moon? Is it his age? Everybody's questioning what's going on with Drew Holiday. But if he's actually up to that level that we saw last year, particularly in the playoffs, that's why the Celtics team, people are not necessarily worried about them right now, because the talent that resides on the Celtics, it's much more than just Brown and Tatum, the two stars at the top. It's much more than just Kristaps Porzingis. And we talk about Peyton Pritchard a lot this season, but really the two guards who are the best guards on this team, it's supposed to be Drew Holiday and Derek White. And really, you look at it, people were debating, is this the best defensive backcourt of all time last season? And on a championship team that was that achieved a record of 80-21, they're clearly one of the best, if not the best, backcourts in all of the NBA. We haven't seen that a lot from them this season. That status out of Holiday and out of White. I swear, Justin, how are you spreading this through the camera right now? What's going on here? I don't know if anybody can hear that in my voice. I mean, you're spreading it through the camera right now. I don't know how this new AI stuff is just crazy. What's going on here? But Drew Holiday and Derek White, them coming out with awards tonight, very fitting for the Boston Celtics with the performances they had. And ultimately, if they don't have these type of performances, the Celtics are probably looking at a back-to-back loss, which hasn't happened in since Christmas, since the Magic and Sixers game, and then before that didn't happen. So it's only happened once this entire season. And Drew Holiday and Derek White are big reasons as to why that it didn't happen tonight. And also, let's bring out this fact as well. The Celtics, this was a performance that looked much more like last season because of Derek White and Drew Holiday stepping up. Because last season, it wasn't just Brown and Tatum. Brown could have a great night. Tatum could have a great night. Didn't matter whether they had a great night because you typically saw, oh, Porzingis then steps up and has a great night. Or Holiday steps up and has a great night. Derek White steps up and has a great night. And it could be any 5 of those players. And tonight, it didn't need to be Brown and Tatum the entirety of the game. It was Derek White and Drew Holiday also putting 40 points combined up on the board themselves. And that's really much more, that's much closer to the type of teamwork, not just Brown and Tatum, the team as a whole that we want to see from the Boston Celtics. And really, White and Holiday, super deserving. Justin, I don't have any rift with your flowers.
Actually,
tonight they completely should go to Drew.
My flowers originally was going out to Luke Cornett. I mean, he was a beast on the boards. He had a couple of blocks in there as well. It was a really good game for Luke Cornett. And I gave him credit earlier in the post-game show to both him and Pritchard for hitting the glass, a combined 18 rebounds for the two. But yeah, and as this game went on, and when it got to closing time, it was Drew Holiday making winning plays, which is really good because that Atlanta game, he was not making winning plays. Times where I was scratching my head, and you know, I, I was sitting there like, man, if there was a game that showed the regression of Drew Holiday, it was probably that Atlanta Hawks game. But a great game from Drew Holiday. Great game from Drew Holiday tonight. I really like that his play tonight. So very convincing performance. But as I've said it, after when we get towards the end of every post game show, I need to see it on Monday. I need to see it again from all 15 guys. I need to see what I saw tonight again and even better on Monday at home against Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets coming off of one of their best wins right now against arguably the best team in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Boston, second night of a back-to-back in Houston. What are you doing?
Don't mind me. I'm just plugging in my
Putting cardboard boxes together. That's what he's doing.
But
You gotta do.
did I just hear you rip tape? Did I? Hold up your hands. Hold up your hands.
Puts the tape down.
No, put the tape down. You're a twat, is what you are. You're a twat. But the Houston Rockets are going to come into Boston hungry. This is a team that Boston blew out on Houston's home court. What better way for Houston, who's trying to catch up to Oklahoma City in the standings, would it be for them to come back to Houston, winning back-to-back games against the Cavs and the Celtics? That's the chef's kiss right there.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
my goodness.
I heard the tape rip. We gotta close this out. We gotta close this out, dude.
One more word on the Rockets. Last time they were missing quite a few forwards. Just like the missing suction from Franco's camera, and now the missing tape or the rip tape. And oh my goodness. But the Rockets, they come into Boston. Of course, they're going to be motivated with Ime Udoka behind them. The Celtics, they blew them out the last time in Houston. And Amin Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith were all not playing in that matchup against the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics, they had a little bit of a leeway game against the Houston Rockets to go and, of course, beat the Rockets without all three of their defensive wings. This time might not be so much of the same game, and it's just I can see the look on Franco's face right now. Just keep that camera.
There it goes. It's going.
This is so bad, folks. Franco, another word holding your camera on the Houston Rockets before we end this show here. Just hold the camera. Hold the camera. It is now a vlog. This is now a CTW vlog. This is going in the blog category.
Well, once again, the Houston Rockets are number one in the Western Conference for a reason. I think that they are
not number one in the Western Conference.
Or number two. They're competing. The Western Conference is very competitive this year. I'm trying to get my thoughts together, keep my composure here, Justin, and you aren't helping. I think that the Celtics really have a stronger matchup, but after this, it seems like it eases down until the NBA All-Star game.
Yes, that's so funny. You are.
Yeah. But I really think that if they can manage to scrape away with the win and really continue this momentum going forward, having home court advantage for the next two games, they can really make a statement. And really, with the loss to the Cavs, I think that they'll be able to continue to be in that number one hunt and really start be on the back of the Cleveland Cavaliers' heels.
Franco,
Okay,
wait.
Seas
Take the
heels.
camera. Take the camera. Turn the camera around. I want to see what it's on. Turn it around. I want to see what it's on.
It's distracted by the laptop.
He's upside down. This is going to be the end of the show, folks. Celtics, Rockets on Justin, help me out. Which day is this? Monday, right? Monday. You know, I thought it was Sunday for the whole time last show. This is going to be Monday against the Houston Rockets. We will have you all covered here on the No Way. Play the music. On the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Alongside of me tonight, Justin Lowe, Nick Franco. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Thank you all for watching. Of course, as I always say, go